from the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast.
Coming up on Ag Day, USDA's Outlook Forum unveils its predictions for 2018 and beyond. In agribusiness, what to do with the grain still in the bin.
I think beans is a sell right now. I think corn's got some time.
A planter checklist from Missy Bauer, and an alternative crop idea with plenty of barriers.
Ag Day, brought to you by the Chevy Silverado, the most dependable, longest-lasting full-size pickups on the road.
Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths. USDA's top economists paint a dim picture for the ag economy as grain prices continue to stagnate. During their annual Ag Outlook Forum, USDA's economists give their long-term projections for grain and livestock. USDA expecting corn and soybean will both hit about 90 million acres this year, but soy acres edge out corn. Both crops are a bit lower than last year's acreage. USDA says economists believe U.S. soybean acreage will continue to outpace corn for the next decade based on increasing demand from China. The Ag Department expecting a 500,000 acre increase in all wheat. USDA economists also projecting a bigger cotton crop this year, about 13.3 million acres. That amount is similar to the National Cotton Council's acreage forecast. Betsy Gibbons been looking at the numbers and joins us now with more details from the Outlook Forum. Betsy?
Clinton, USDA's chief economist Robert Johansson breaking down his projections for not just acreage, but trade and price.
For the 2018-19 marketing year.
He says rising global stocks and increasing global production limit some upside potential for prices, but not for all.
Wheat prices are expected to rise modestly to $4.70 a bushel, up 2% from last year, in part as last year's drought in the northern plains and current dry conditions across much of the winter wheat areas have supported prices.
USDA says soybeans, cotton, and rice have the potential to fall.
Soybean prices forecast at $9.25 a bushel are expected to be down fractionally next year as large U.S. stocks hold prices in check. Cotton prices rose slightly in 2017-18 even as producers in the U.S. and around the world expanded area. Cotton prices in 2018-19 are projected down almost 9% to 63 cents per pound.
Overall, USDA says net farm income is expected to continue to fall in 2018.
We expect it to remain flat, and there are several things that may change this outlook.
Despite the decline, Johansson says there is more optimism than last year.
Sometimes it may show up optimism when indeed some of these surveys are actually revealing negative expectations. Nevertheless, relative to last year, they are positive. Farmers are a little bit more reflective, tracking more closely to the price of corn since this time last year.
Of course, net farm income and crop prices all depend on weather, the economy, and trade. Johansson says free trade partners account for almost 45% of ag exports now. That includes Canada, Mexico, and other Latin American countries.
All right, thanks, Betsy. USDA's economists say China's livestock sector has a big appetite for U.S. soybeans, and they expect it will continue to grow. USDA projecting that within the next 10 years, China will account for 70% of all U.S. soybean exports. There are concerns that China would retaliate by hitting soybean shipments.
We hear conversation out of China. We have not seen any direct retaliatory measures yet. We have to be mindful of those issues. We have to plan ahead over what potential retaliatory measures that China may take, although we're not in control of that. We hope that they will view these issues in a way that it's not retaliatory, particularly in an agricultural sense, although we do know realistically that agriculture is always the easiest to retaliate on.
Now to dairy. The U.S. is producing more milk than ever, but it's doing it with fewer farms. In its January milk production report, the Ag Department reporting that the number of licensed U.S. dairy farms dropped by 1,600 farms in the past year to just over 40,000. That's a decline of 4%. According to our partners at Farm Journal's Milk, the country has lost nearly 17,000 dairy farms over the past decade. That's a decline of about 30%. Now, Wisconsin still has the most number of dairy farmers with about 9,100, but it lost 430 farms last year alone. California produces the most milk with just 1,400 operations, but those herds average about 1,200 cows, while Wisconsin farms average about 140 cows. While the amount of overall drought and dryness got worse last week, now at 40% of the contiguous United States, the latest drought monitor showing multiple areas improved due to big rains and snows over the past week. That includes parts of the southeast.
We've had some rain over the last 3 weeks that's put water back in our ponds and our creeks and got some moisture in the ground. We still probably in a light drought, but we're not really suffering right now.
Davis says hopefully his area receives more rain by planting time, which is right around the corner for him. Now, the drought monitor authors say more precipitation is expected in the week ahead. Dry in some places, wet in others. Take a look at this drone footage from Bill Bauer in Coldwater, Michigan. He says they have water standing in fields where water's never been. Frozen ground and 4 inches of rain on top of 20+ inches of snow is causing major flooding in that part of Michigan and northern Indiana. Mike Hoffman joining us now for today's crop comments and a closer look. Mike.
Good morning, Clinton. Yes, that flooding found its way to northern Indiana as well. Take a look at this photo from St. Joseph County, Indiana. Farm fields all over the area are nothing but standing water. Many of the area's waterways hit record levels and they are continuing to flood, but they are going to be coming down over the next few days. But that's not stopping these geese from making their way back north. The birds are flying in by the bunch and finding plenty of water along the way. Now, taking a look at the wind forecast, not a whole lot as we start the day today. It does get windier, though, as we head through the afternoon hours in the southwest and the eastern lakes into the northeast. Tomorrow, then, is going to be a windier day. In fact, as we move into the afternoon, you'll notice widespread areas of wind from the west all the way into the central states. We'll take a look at your forecast coming up. First, here are some hometown temps.
Your next piece of equipment is on MachineryPete.com. Search equipment from dealerships across the country to find what you're looking for. Only on MachineryPete.com.
All right, when we come back, look at Thursday's markets and advice for grain that's still in the bin. And later, making money with agronomist Missy Bauer as she walks us through some brand new planter pointers on Farm Journal College TV.
Ag Day, brought to you by Top Third Ag Marketing. Farmer first with a plan for every market.
Agribusiness, plenty of mixed messages during the trading day Thursday. Let's see how markets closed from our friends on the floor.
As far as the soybeans are concerned, they have been very, very strong over the past couple weeks on weather concerns from Argentina, really putting some premium into that market. Again, we're starting to look to the May contracts to give us a little bit more time. 1053 is the highs that we're looking at. If we get out above that, we could see a little bit of extension, but I'm not sure how much more there is. Now, as far as the wheat's concerned, we mostly consolidating over the past couple weeks. We see significant amount of headwind for the May contract between 479 and 482. This is kind of the recent top end of the range, as well as the 200-day moving average. So long as the bears can defend this level, I think we see the market retreat and pull back towards 448 to 453, which represents the 50 and 100-day moving average. So that's what we're looking at to wrap up the week. That's what you should be looking at too. This has been Oliver Slope with Blue Line Futures from the floor of the CME.
Before you put seed in the ground, you may still have grain in the bin. Tyne Morgan picks up the conversation in today's analysis from the road.
Here now with Bob Utterback of Utterback Marketing. Bob, a lot of momentum and talk around corn prices right now looking at new crop.
Yes.
But that does not fix the fact that we have a lot of old crop out there that still needs to be priced.
Right, and I've been picking up a lot of people now are starting to get motivated. $4 corn is right around the corner for December corn, $10 beans. We're starting to get some selling, which is good. My concern is selling in the cash with no defense against that 20, 25, 30% chance of a weather scare. Tends to, if they sell and the market goes up, they won't be taking advantage of the good brass ring. Is if we do get that weather event this year in the summer market and D19 corn gets in that 440, 450, will they have the ability to pull the trigger aggressively like they need to?
So then what can you do at this point with old crop?
I think, you know, I could sell cash for 25, 30%, but then when you start moving above the 30% sell in new crop beans and maybe 30% in corn, I think you need to buy deep in the money puts to give yourself flexibility. I think it's a little too late to buy calls. If you're going to buy calls, I would wait for a corrective wave before I buy the calls. So right now I sold beans today at 10.20. I bought my margin call I pre-bought I bought 1120 put in the money put for about $1.30. So I paid $1 in premium, but I have total flexibility, and I'll get about 40 to 50% of the rally from here on in if it occurs. I only have one position to manage.
Why are growers reluctant to do a strategy like that?
Cash flow, fear of being wrong, but it's mainly they don't understand it.
Okay. Yeah, and I mean, it is hard. I mean, trying to keep track of everything that you did. I mean, I know that's important of having a market advisor, but what other advice do you have for farmers?
I think beans is a sell right now. I think corn's got some time. Argentine weather scare, if it continues, I think we probably got another week to 10 days of this weather scare in South America. Take advantage of it. And if you got old crop corn in the bin, move it, and if you just have to be long, know exactly your cost to be long that corn.
All right, Bob Utterback, thank you so much. We need to take a quick break, and then we'll have a check of weather.
To talk with Bob one-on-one, call Utterback Marketing Services, toll free at 800-832-1488. AgDay, brought to you by Credenz soybean seed from Bayer, designed using smart genetics with tailored varieties to fit any field condition. AgDay weather, brought to you by Resicor corn herbicide, a uniquely powerful formulation, extraordinary power over weeds.
Welcome back to AgDay meteorologist Mike Hoffman. Mike, if we look at this drought monitor, we can see some places probably haven't even been factored in yet where they got moisture.
Yeah, I have the feeling parts of Missouri, Arkansas will get even better next week once we see the latest results. Because we have had a lot of rain in much of the southern Mississippi Valley, into the lower lakes, and many parts of the southeast. So these areas have already shown improvement, and I think there will be some more improvement next week in our drought monitor once all of that rain gets factored into the equations. But it's gotten worse in parts of the Texas Panhandle into Oklahoma, southwestern Kansas, and also worse in parts of the Four Corner region as just no moisture is able to get in there. This is what it looked like a month ago, so 4 weeks ago. You can see how there's less red all of a sudden in the southeast and up the eastern seaboard, but there's more of it in some of those western areas that I just talked about. All of a sudden, just in the last week, we've seen a little bit of worsening conditions, and mainly that's because you haven't had rain in so long. I mean, it's going to continue to get worse until we can get some moisture in there. We have a couple of systems that might give you some. The first one's coming through the Four Corner region. Second one will dive into the southwest and come east as well, as you'll see. However, farther east is where most of the moisture continues to be, from Texas into the Great Lakes, and that is snow in the western Great Lakes this morning, putting it down pretty good. That storm system moves eastward. It'll begin to snow in parts of New England out of that system, although it's going to be raining a lot of it as well. And again, the front kind of stalls out across the southern Mississippi Valley, so you'll start to see more rain behind the front later on today. And that moves right on up into the Ohio River Valley again, out ahead of the next system coming into the Plain States. That will be another big snowmaker as we head through the day tomorrow for the northern plains, and a big rainmaker for the central Mississippi Valley, parts of the eastern plains as well. Next system diving southward once again. So just kind of a continuous stream of moisture in the eastern portions of the country, especially from northeast Texas all the way into New England, as you can see. But these are just huge amounts of rain. Again, in Arkansas, parts of Oklahoma, northeast Texas, on up into the Ohio River Valley, getting the worst of it. Snowfall mainly going to be across the western lakes and the northern plains and the Rockies. Adding in the next 36 hours, we're just going to add some more to all of that area. We have 2 storms in a row going to be moving through that area there. Very warm in the southeast, very cold in the northern plains and the northern Rockies. That trend is going to continue over the next 24 hours. As you can see, high temperatures still very warm again along the Gulf Coast, all because of that big ridge in the southeast. You can see how that gets cut down a little bit, but a lot of these troughs are digging in out west, and then all of a sudden we see a little bit of a trough dig into the east as we head into the end of next week. That's a look across the country. Now let's take a look at some local forecasts. Now taking a look at Great Falls, Montana. Sunshine, breezy, and cold today. High of just 21 degrees. Abilene, Texas, chilly with showers, maybe a thunderstorm, high of 48. And Frankfort, Kentucky, cloudy with times of rain, the high 72.
All right, when we come back, planter pointers from field agronomist Missy Bauer, and later, Farm Sense, including a look at an alternative crop idea that might serve a secondary purpose.
Uh-oh.
The Farm Journal College Report is brought to you by Instinct and N-Serve nitrogen stabilizers. They don't just stabilize nitrogen, they maximize it, so crops deliver the max in return. Learn more at maxinmaxout.com.
On today's Farm Journal College TV, Missy Bauer breaking down the planter in preparation for spring. Today, a few tips on why a little pre-plant work could pay off at harvest.
When we bring a planter into the shop, we've got kind of a checklist that we utilize to inspect it, basically from the hitch pin all the way back to the closing wheels. One of the first things that we start with in the shop is what I call the transmission system. So basically anything that helps this meter operate, so you've got your main drive shaft, you've got the chains on here, anything that could possibly have vibration that could be felt back to the meter, we want to try to eliminate. So we kind of talk about spinning the planter, putting a little motor on this main drive shaft, inspect what's happening in here as these chains are going through, or if you got cable drives, the different components. So that's one pretty big portion. The next thing we want to look at is the row unit itself, making sure that those haven't been bent or twisted, and making sure that that's all in alignment there. The other thing that we take a look at on the row unit itself would actually be dealing with this down pressure assembly system. So whether you're running springs or airbags or a hydraulic system, we just need to inspect that and make sure that there's nothing that's been broke or where we're having any potential issues there. Setting down pressure in the field can be pretty important from an agronomic perspective and making sure the microenvironment around that seed is in good shape. Another thing on the planter, why we've got it in the shop that we want to pay attention to, is going to be the parallel arms, these bolts and bushings. If these start to get too wore out, then we get a lot more looseness back here in the row unit, and we'll see these row units will have a lot more up and down action than we really need. Cause a little more issues with seed tube bounce or seed ricocheting inside that seed tube. So the first thing we do is just pull these out and inspect them. If you can see where we got threads that are worn, or bushings are worn, then we replace them. If those look good, then we just go through and get them all tightened up. The other thing on the planter that we check on the row unit itself are the row cleaners. We recommend running floating row cleaners, so you just want to make sure that everything's working there, you don't got a bearing out or something like that.
Missy will continue the conversation next week, and she's planning to have a planter clinic in March. You can get more information at bmcropconsulting.com. Up next, an alternative acreage idea.
AgDay, brought to you by Alivo Seed Treatment from Bayer. Protect your soybeans from SDS and nematodes this season. In the Country, sponsored by Kubota. Tractors, hay tools, utility vehicles, mowers, and more. Visit KubotaUSA.com today.
According to USDA's Ag Outlook, by all accounts, net farm income is poised to be anemic once again in 2018. Now that has farmers searching for something else to put in the ground that fits their system and makes them some money. One of the most interesting ideas I've heard came this week from Farm Journal writer Chris Bennett. His article on agweb.com kills the proverbial two birds with one stone. Make the proposed border wall out of grass. No, not that grass. This industrial hemp. Bennett reporting on numbers from hemp pioneer and advocate Richard Rose. By the numbers, Rose says 1 million acres of hemp could build that wall for a big discount. Now it starts with something called hempcrete, a mixture of hydrated lime, as in the stone, and hurd, which is hemp's woody core. Mixing lime and hurd together creates a type of concrete. Now Rose says a wall 30 feet tall and 2 feet wide, roughly 1,900 miles long on the southern border, would need 2.3 million tons of hemp for fiber. Growing that much, given average yields of 4 hemp tons per acre, requires just shy of 1 million acres. At 15 cents per pound, the cost of hemp hurd for the wall is a cool $710 million. Much less than the projected $15 to $70 billion a concrete structure might cost. Now, rules on hemp are loosening a bit. In 2017, the U.S. grew about 25,000 acres of hemp, but let's be clear, I'm not advocating anything or debating the pros and cons of hemp production. I just found this idea really interesting. So whether amber waves may someday be swapped for hectares of hemp likely depends more on policy in Washington than the ability to plant and grow this alternative crop. Be sure to read Chris Bennett's full story on hempcrete at agweb.com. And that's all the time we have this morning. We're sure glad you tuned in, spent part of your day with us. For Mike Hoffman and all of us here at AgDay, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great day.
AgDay, brought to you by Ram Commercial, America's longest-lasting heavy-duty pickups.